I think the biggest problem with visual effects in modern day movies is that the attitude and the approach to them has changed a lot. I saw a video recently about I think it was even about Godzilla Minus One, about how it took the approach of the 90s visual effects. Like the top tier visual effects movies from the 90s, I think, are still some of the best visual effects films of all time, because it required so much creative problem solving in order to achieve a certain effect that they had no choice but to make it work. Whereas in the 2000s and then 2010s and 2020s now, it's starting to become just like a pipeline. We have thousands of shots in this thing. Everyone's like, all right, we're just kind of like, it's almost the equivalent to like throwing a filter onto a photo rather than color grading a photo, if that makes sense. It's like, it's become so much of a streamlined process now that I think people can kind of get that sense that like, oh, this is all just, it's starting to feel more vanilla. I think the most egregious example of just wanton visual effects is Dial of Destiny, the newest Indiana Jones movie. And it had some incredible visual effects, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to spoil the ending of the movie. They go back in time like a couple thousand years to this Greek city, and again, the effects are good. There is a little bit of like that, like a little too clean sheen across it all, but I think the biggest problem is that like it's just too much. They designed the entire city, like every house, every street corner, just to give the director flexibility to pick and choose where he puts the shots. And I think that has been the biggest problem with movies over the last couple decades, is that like giving directors too much creative freedom. We saw Peter Jackson go through this with The Hobbit. He did Lord of the Rings under a huge amount of constraint, and they had to come up with very clever solutions to do it all, and very innovative, very breakthrough technology was made for all of that. And then when it came to The Hobbit, it's like, I can do anything in the world. I can literally make anything I want. So we're going to do exactly that. Everything, we're just going to do everything now. And I don't think that's a good thing for directors. I think there needs to be some sort of like limitation on what you can pull off, and that forces you into these really interesting creative solutions that are there. That's where interesting stuff comes from, I think. And so, you know, you have these movies these days that it's like the director doesn't understand how visual effects work, and so he's like, yeah, I want this really cool thing here, and do it. As opposed to, I have no idea how we're gonna make this work. Let's try to figure it out. Like, no, that's not gonna work. Oh, but this might be able, and then like you end up arriving at something that does work if you're under those constraints, which is exactly what the creator and Godzilla Minus One had to go through, as opposed to Dial of Destiny, which had a massive budget, like $200 or $300 million. Of course, they had the incredible like de-aged Harrison Ford through the first like 20-25 minutes of the movie. But like for me, the thing that really killed it was just like the whole sequence at the end with the Greek city, and it's like it's flying around, and it looks great, but I just couldn't help but feel like the budget for that one sequence was more than entire movies. You know?
Wow.
Like, constraints cause creativity. It's the limits that spur creativity, and it's so important to have that. And we see that, just like you mentioned, so many times where the directors were forced to work within a constrained budget. That's when all the crazy shots came around. And now when they have freedom to create everything, they're like, oh, I don't know what I should do. Let's just do everything. It's so true what you said. And it's not like I know everything that went through their mind. It's just when I'm watching the movies, I just feel
you will see the difference. Yeah,
I just feel different when I watch The Lord of the Rings. I can watch The Lord of the Rings today as a 3D artist and know how they made it. Of course, the graphics still hold up, but I can make better looking shots probably for some of the shots I can with Unreal Engine if I really try. But it doesn't mean that I can get that. Like they nailed it so many years ago, and there's some magic to that. And I feel like some of the movies today fail to capture some. I'm not saying all.
No, let's talk about The Matrix, the first one and the last one that they released a few years ago. Like they are so different.